Hey guys, just letting you know I have a cold, so if I sound stupider than usual, it's because of that. But I'm joined once again by my friend Matthew Kile, and we're doing a movie review. The movie we want to review is the 2002 action horror film, Blade 2. Now, this is a sequel to the 1998 film Blade, which was based on the Marvel Comics character created by Marv Wolfman Gene Colan. And the film was once again written by David S. Goyer, but this time around the film is directed by Guillermo del Toro, the Guillermo del Toro, who would go on to be an Oscar-winning director. Now, prior to this, del Toro did films like Kronos, Mimic, and The Devil's Backbone. After this, he would go on to do Hellboy, Pan's Labyrinth, Pacific Rim, Crimson Peak, The Shape of Water, and the remake of Nightmare Alley. He also co-directed an acclaimed stop-motion adaptation of Pinocchio in 2022, and recently he did an excellent adaptation of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein for Netflix. So the plot of Blade 2 is it's set 2 years after the events of the first movie, where we saw Blade destroy the vampire Deacon Frost and prevent him from bringing forth an ancient god into our world, which would have initiated Armageddon. But in the first movie, Blade's mentor and father figure, Abraham Whistler, was brutally attacked and beaten by Frost and his gang, and they bit him, infecting him with the vampire contagion. So when Blade found him, he gave him a gun so he could kill himself before the vampire infection takes hold. But in this movie, we learn that Whistler is still alive and is being held prisoner in Prague. Blade manages to rescue Whistler and manages to cure him of his vampirism, presumably with the cure that Karen Jensen was working on in the first movie, although oddly enough, she's not even mentioned in this film. So Blade gets Whistler back, but Blade also has a new protege, Scud, who Whistler does not like at all. But eventually Blade is confronted by representatives of the vampire nation offering him a truce, because it turns out there's something out there that threatens both humans and vampires alike. It turns out there's a vampire named Jared Nomak who possesses a highly mutated version of the vampire gene. And he starts feeding on both humans and vampires alike, transforming them into these new mutant versions of vampires dubbed Reapers. So in order to stop the Reaper contagion from spreading throughout both the vampire and human worlds, Blade, Scud, and Whistler are now forced to join forces with this team of vampire assassins who were originally trained to take out Blade. So of course Wesley Snipes and Kristofferson reprise the roles of Blade and Whistler. You also have Norman Reedus, who most people would probably recognize from the Boondock Saints and The Walking Dead as Scud. You also have Ron Perlman as one of the vampire assassins who really fucking hates Blade, and there's a lot of really hilarious exchanges between them throughout the movie where Ron Perlman's character is constantly trying to get one up on Blade, but Blade is always one step ahead of him. Now, of course, Guillermo del Toro worked with Ron Perlman before this in Kronos, and Perlman would go on to be kind of a del Toro regular. I also got a chance to meet Ron Perlman back in 2019. You also have Leonor Varela as Nisa, who might be the most complex character in the movie. You also have Luke Goss as Jared Nomak, the main villain of the film, who is honestly a terrifying character, but not entirely unsympathetic. Now, this comparison I'm about to make might be considered kind of a spoiler, but he ends up being a very similar character to the creature from Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. And I gotta say, the Reapers in general are horrifying antagonists. Like, there's a real kind of body horror element to them, like the fact that their jaws open up into these sort of mandibles, the fact that they're virtually unstoppable, and they almost behave more like the Romero-esque zombie. Now, I believe David S. Goyer and Guillermo del Toro both said that the Reapers were specifically inspired by the vampires from Richard Matheson's I Am Legend. You also have Thomas Kretschmann, I'm not sure if I'm saying his name right, as Demaskinos, I'm not sure if I'm saying the character's name right, who is sort of this ancient vampire overlord who ends up being sort of the secondary and overarching antagonist of the film. And he is actually Nisa's father, and again, this might be considered kind of a spoiler. Now, me and Matt are going to get into spoilers eventually, but it turns out he knows a lot more about Nomak's origins and the origins of the Reaper strain than he's letting on. But this character was specifically designed to look like Count Orlok from Nosferatu. So, yeah, Blade 2... This is often considered to be the best film in the franchise, and I would say, technically speaking, it probably is, although I'll admit, I do find myself rewatching the first one way more often. But what do you think of Blade 2?
I like it a lot. Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, I know that the script, certain things in, like, the script are a little, you know, confusing, but it's still, it's not, like, affecting, it doesn't, any flaws that this movie has, whether it's me or anyone else, it's really, it still holds up and it's still a good sequel. You know, it just expands on more of just Blade. It's still what you want from a Blade movie, and I mean, Wesley Snipes is still, he still just is great, and he's great in all of them. I mean, he's a great actor, and the newer actors that joined this movie that are, you know, Norman Reedus is great. I didn't realize it was Norman Reedus when I was a little kid. And I don't think I actually saw it, because I think that at that time the movie before this, I think he was in other stuff, but he was only in Boondock Saints. I think that's kind of what...
Yeah, that was what he was most known for at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, he did work with Guillermo del Toro before this, because he had a very small role in Mimic.
He did, yeah. I don't have any problems with this movie. I think it's cool that I mean, I know that people are a little weird about how Kris Kristofferson's character as Whistler comes back.
Yeah, I have a feeling that, because obviously in the first one it seemed that he died, I honestly think it's because they knew Whistler was our best fucking character, and it's like, yeah, we gotta figure out a way to bring him back. And admittedly, the way they bring him back, it's resolved a little too easily.
Yeah.
But you know what? I kind of don't give a shit, because Whistler's such a great character. Kris Kristofferson steals both this and the first one.
Hell yeah.
So, you know what? Good. I'm glad Whistler's in this fucking movie. I also love when Blade cures Whistler of the vampirism, he sees him the next morning and says, "How do you feel?" And Whistler's just like hammered shit. And some of the insults that he has to, like, the members of the team of vampire assassins that they have to work with, the Blood Pack, like, some of the insults he has for them are fucking golden. Like, he doesn't give a flying fuck about any of them. Or, like, the scenes where he's tearing Scud a new asshole, and Scud is a douchebag and definitely deserves to get dressed down by Whistler.
And it's interesting because, like, I feel like the look of the movie and, like, the set pieces that's pure Guillermo del Toro, because he did Hellboy like right after this movie.
Yeah, in this movie you definitely see a lot of the blueprints for Hellboy. You were even pointing out to me Norman Reedus' character Scud. He's wearing a fucking t-shirt for like for the demon hunting organization in the Hellboy franchise. So it's almost like Del Toro was like kind of like winking to the audience. Oh yeah, I'm working on a Hellboy movie.
Yeah.
This was really before people really knew who Del Toro was. I mean, obviously he did 3 other movies before this, but he wasn't really the Guillermo del Toro we know today.
Yeah.
And I actually feel like, even though this one is considered to be the best film in the Blade franchise, as far as Del Toro's filmography goes, I feel like a lot of people forget this is actually a Guillermo del Toro movie.
Yeah, and it's one of my favorite Del Toro movies as well. It really is a great, you know, it's just a fun sequel, and
like the first one, it's just like the definition of badass.
Yeah.
It doesn't give a fuck what kind of plot holes or script problems there are. It just puts you in its world, and good fucking luck. And again, the movie is just the definition of cool. Sure, there are script problems, sure there are plot holes, but who gives a fuck? And
it takes itself seriously, but not so seriously where you forget you're watching a comic book movie, and it seems like Del Toro really gets it. Not that you can't have a comic book movie that does take itself like serious drama, but that's not what this movie is. And I think it strikes a very healthy balance. I just love the moment where Blade and the Blood Pack are walking across the street to that vampire nightclub, and it's all set to the song Eye Against Eye by Massive Attack. The soundtrack for the movie is also pretty badass.
The soundtrack for Blade 2 is just as good. It's good. Like, all the sound, it's very, drum and bass music and electronic dance music. Like, it's still, like, I feel like that's, like, essential to this particular like trilogy of it's just like Blade just going to raves and just fucking up vampire, just not giving a fuck, just complete slaughter,
But before we continue on, here's my friend Christian Feliciano giving his thoughts on Blade 2.
Whenever you hear that Guillermo del Toro is making a superhero movie, you should tune in. Don't ask questions. Don't worry about it. Just know that you gotta go see the movie. This is one of the examples of why I say what I say. And this is one of the examples of why I'm so pissed that they took him off of Justice League Dark, as far as I know. They're not doing Justice League Dark anymore, and he was going to do it, and they're not doing it anymore. DC could have been saved by Guillermo del Toro's Justice League Dark. But of course, they're going to ruin it, so whatever. Screw you guys. Hollywood sucks balls, and whatever. Sorry for my little rant, but I'm a big fan of Guillermo del Toro. Whenever I talk about Guillermo del Toro, this is one of the movies I bring up. He captured Blade even more than the first one. To me, this is the best of the Blade movies. This is the most Marvel, this is the most comic book of the Blade movies. You could tell Guillermo del Toro, even if he didn't read the comics like originally, you could tell that he studied the comics to make this movie, because it is just so much fun. It's so Marvel. It's so it feels like Tomb of Dracula. This feels like a somewhat adaptation of Tomb of Dracula. Now, yes, don't get me wrong, none of the characters from Tomb of Dracula are in this, but I will say that still works. Like, I just thought this is a lot of fun. The action is great. The humor is fantastic. The twists and turns, they all work. The graphics are the problem here. And I don't mean this against Guillermo del Toro. I don't know who did the graphics. I don't know what was responsible for that. But I will say that it's very video gamey. Very video gamey. Like, there's a point where they're fighting with light behind them, and it just looked really bad. It looked like you were watching like a cutscene from a video game. I don't know what happened, because in the first one the graphics were pretty good. I don't know what happened, but and then this one they kind of take away the practical effects of the sunlight killing the person. I won't say who it is, but somebody dies by sunlight, and it ruined it. It just ruined it. It wasn't good. It was like they fade away in dust, as opposed to the first one where they exploded. I don't know what happened, but other than that, this is a great movie. The story is fantastic. It's thrilling. It's kind of creepy and it kind of scary. And you can also see where the strain comes from. You can see where the inspiration for the strain comes from, because Guillermo del Toro did that too. But that's all I'll say about that. Overall, Blade 2 is great. It is it is one of the best superhero movies ever. Now, how do we go from this to the next one? I don't know, but we'll get to that when I review that one. But at least for now, yes, Blade 2 is great, and I highly recommend you check it out.
It's just great. Like, it's
like,
just...
I love how Blade and Ron Perlman's character, they're constantly trying to out-chat each other.
Oh yeah, like that first scene where when they get together, and everybody gets together and they walk into the rave, and Blade's just like, "You gotta be kidding me!" And then you just cut to all like and then them. Yeah, no, it's just great. And
and then Ron Perlman's character like has the laser pointer on Blade, like basically saying, "Oh, it'd be so easy to take him out right now," not realizing that Blade already has, a laser pointer on him.
Yeah.
And you just have it cuts to Ron Perlman, and he just goes.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because like there it isn't a comedy. Like I don't know what I said in the last review. Like it's not
there's
comedy,
humor in
there's
it, but it's not. Yeah, it's not like
it's
what
very sprinkled up, very spread. It's not like over the top where it kills the mood.
Yeah.
It's very like just natural.
What do you think of? There's this weird running joke in the movie where all the characters seem to like the Powerpuff Girls. Like you have Powerpuff Girls playing in the background, and Norman Reedus' character and some of the vampire characters seem to like the Powerpuff Girls.
Yeah, it's funny because I remember when Blade, like I said, when Blade 1, 2, and 3 would play it on TV. When it was Blade 2, I remember seeing that, and I'm like, wow, that's crazy. And then, like, as I get older, I'm like, like, I guess that's just, like, how, that was just what it was,
it was a popular show at the time.
Yeah, so that's probably...
what do you think of the villains in the movie, the Reapers?
I think it's great. I think they're very interesting. It's a worthy villain for...
Yeah.
It does its job. Like
they're definitely, like, they're almost, like, Romero-esque zombies in a way.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that, like, you get bitten by one and you almost instantaneously turn into one. Like, it's very... The movie almost behaves like a traditional zombie movie. What I do like about this movie is it does... You pointed out already, like, it sort of expands upon the vampire world, but it also, like you have the character of Nisa in the film, who... is not necessarily evil. She's just, like, doing what she does in order to survive,
Yeah.
And it gives you an idea that maybe not all the vampires are necessarily scumbags, they're just another species.
And it kind of feeds into a point I made about the first movie, is that when you think about it, the vampires are really doing this in order to survive. And from their point of view, Blade would be kind of a serial killer.
It's not really their fault, and you almost get a sense that Blade is starting to kind of think about that a little bit, but they never really explore it that much, and they never really go into that in the next film.
And Blade does develop a certain respect for her.
The Reapers, particularly the character of Jared Nomak, is kind of a Frankenstein monster-esque character, because, spoiler, we eventually find out that vampire overlord, Demoskinos, I'm probably butchering the name, we find out that he basically created the Reaper virus, and he created Jared Nomak, that Nomak is basically his son. So there's kind of like this weird, almost like Frankenstein's monster kind of relationship between the two of them.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really interesting.
Oh, yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, just like the stakes are higher and raised more in this one.
What do you think about because again, we're going in the spoilers, what do you think about the revelation that Scud, the Norman Reedus character, was actually a traitor? That he was working with the vampires?
I thought it's a pretty good, like... I thought it was interesting. It's definitely... Cool. It kind of, I feel like that shows you that, like, in that world, like, people were just, the character just very ruthless with, like, defeating Blade or whatever,
Yeah.
Like, right, a good example is, like, not even, like, 20 seconds into the introduction of, like, that clan and Ron Perlman's character, they're already him and Blade are already trying to, like, are just immediately just not getting along. And
do you blush?
Yeah. It's it's just a well done movie. I love it just as much as I did when I was younger and when I saw it the first time. It was just
Yeah, I think again I do find myself rewatching the first one more, but I think this one's at least just as good.
It's yeah. And again, you can learn a lot. Like if you watch whether it's one of the Blade movies in the trilogy, it was still when like. I think at that time, the only thing it was 2002.
Yeah.
So like Spider-Man hadn't come out yet. X-Men 2 or whatever it was.
I think X-Men 2 was the year after. Yeah. I don't know for sure though.
But this was then like there was no MCU or DC universe. James Gunn, I don't even think he was like known as who he is now or any other person directed whatever John Favreau, whoever I don't. there was no one really thought of Iron Man or the thing. This is still well before, only a few years before the Christopher Nolan Batman. So like there wasn't no gritty superhero movies yet at that time. And this is what we had back or they, going into the theater, older people, whoever,
But yeah, Blade 2 is an awesome movie. It's a great comic book movie. It's a great action horror film. It's a great vampire film. It's a great superhero movie. Whichever category you want to put it in, it is really damn good. And it's a great sequel in general. It's arguably the best film in the franchise. Now, there was a video game based on this movie, and I believe a comic book adaptation as well, and the Reapers, who I'm pretty sure were original villains created for the movie, they would later get incorporated into the mainline Blade comics. Now, as my friend Christian alluded to, later on Guillermo del Toro co-wrote the book The Strain with Chuck Hogan, which is an apocalyptic vampire story. I haven't read it in 10 years, but I remember the book being really good. It's basically I Am Legend meets Dracula meets Contagion. The Strain was also adapted into the TV series of the same name, and again, the vampires in that, I think, were definitely inspired by the Reapers from Blade 2. Now, before we end this video, here's my friend John giving his thoughts on Blade 2.
Blade 2 is one of the best Marvel sequels. What I like about this movie is the concept of Blade was kill vampires his whole life. For once he's teaming up with the vampires that he usually kills and tracks down. These new vampire reapers are more lethal and deadlier than regular vampires. These vampires are immune to garlic and silver, but the only thing that kills them is sunlight. Despite Blade teaming up with the Blood Pack, he still doesn't like them. Martial artist Donnie plays one of the Blood Pack vampire members, who will later go on to play Ip Man, Bruce Lee's mentor in Wing Chun. He was also in one of the Star Wars Rogue One prequel movies. When Blade comes out of the bloodbath, it was another awesome, epic, cool, badass fight scene when he fights the bodyguards. I love the song that plays in the background. I play this song sometimes when I work out. It gives you a pump and adrenaline. When I was rewatching this movie, it occurred to me how Del Toro did a great job of creating an arc to the villain, like the classic Universal Monsters, Misunderstood Lost Souls. Jared Nomad is one of the first of the new Vampire Reapers that was created by his corrupt father. I like it when Blade and Nomad, when they first fight, he says, "Why kill me? We have the same enemy." Pointing out that him and Blade should be teamed up to kill his father who created the new Vampire Reapers, and he's the real villain of the movie. But little did Blade know that it was being set up, and the mission was a lie and a fake. When Nomad comes face to face against his father, we get the sense of estrangedness, hate, and dysfunction that he has against his father. This was the first Guillermo del Toro movie I saw as a kid. Then I saw Hellboy. He's one of my favorite film directors, but there are still a few films I've not seen of his yet. I still have not seen Pan's Labyrinth, and that's considered his big masterpiece. I also still need to see Chronos, Mimic, and Devil's Backbone, some of his early horror movies. I love Shape of Water and his Pinocchio movie. Another side note, I am looking forward to his new Frankenstein movie. It looks great. Kris Kristofferson once again does a good job playing Whistler again. I like when he insults the blood by calling one of them Buttercup from the Powerpuff Girls. This is another awesome movie, one of the best Marvel sequels. Another movie that should not be forgotten. Another one of my favorite Marvel movies.
So that was our review on Blade 2. Our next movie review will be on Blade Trinity.